Typhoon Maysak continues to be the main topic today as we watch it stir up the waters just towards the east of Yap, and at least looking at the latest satellite imagery, this is a monster of a storm system. Actually, right now, winds, according to the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, sustained around 120 to 130 knots. It's not quite to that super typhoon intensity, but if this was in the Atlantic, it'd be a Category 4 equivalent of a hurricane, and we're expecting this to continue to intensify. The other big thing I do want to mention with it, right now, pressure at 935 HPA. That makes it the fourth strongest typhoon prior to March in recent history, at least as far as the records go back. And also, if this drops down below 930, which JMA expects this to go down to 925 HPA, it will be the strongest typhoon in recorded history prior to the month of April. That's one thing I do want to note. You typically don't see typhoons like this early on in the season, and the one big reason why it is so intense, it is staying farther towards the south. It is staying out of the grasp of the strong vertical wind shear off towards the north in these warm sea surface temperatures. But the other big issue that we are seeing, though, is it is staying down here towards the south, and that is causing problems for many of these small islands, which are located just north of the equator across much of Micronesia. And take a look at the satellite imagery. There's our storm system now, but just 2 days ago, it actually was a little bit farther back here towards the east into Chuuk, part of the Chuuk state here, just towards the southeast of Guam. They took the brunt of this storm system as it moved overhead. And what I want to show you is some video coming out of that area here on Sunday evening, where we saw these winds, at least reported, were gusting upwards of 114 kilometers per hour. But based on the images I am seeing here today, I highly doubt that these were the winds that we actually seen, because we are looking at damage. Look at this video right here. I mean, this just kind of gives you a general idea of what we did look at here on Sunday. But these are the images coming out of this area where the uprooted trees, nearly 90% of the structures were damaged according to local media across this area. Initial reports are also indicating there was at least 5 casualties reported there on the islands of Chuuk. Now, that is still initial reports, because one of the big things, look at this, a ship actually sank right here just off into the lagoon. But one of the big things is that there are many downed power lines. Yes, we do have about 35,000 people that live out here, but communication is still limited to these islands. And that's actually why it's been 2 days and we're starting to get some video and more information coming out of this area once communication completely gets restored. But it does look like this was one of the strongest typhoons to hit the island in recent history. And right here, look at the GFS model. This is for Wednesday. We have our storm system Maysak pushing off here towards the west, but back there towards the east, we still have another low which could potentially develop and bring some foul weather there for you. Again, I don't think it's going to be nearly as intense as Typhoon Maysak, but regardless, we're looking at a recovery process out here on this island, and that is not going to be helping the situation. So let's talk about where our storm system is now here on Monday. Still tracking off towards the west, but one of the key things I do want to know, there's our center of circulation. Look at that defined eye. We have the eye wall just continuing to wrap up. This is about as meteorology is concerned, about as good looking as a typhoon can get. Maybe you can see a little more symmetricalness on the western periphery of it, but it is definitely wrapped up. We have Yap back here towards the west. We have a few small islands located around this storm, and actually I want to point that out. This was an imagery from the Guam National Weather Service they put out here. You have a lot of islands just ahead of that center of circulation, and what that means is that we're going to be looking at a lot of people still impacted by this. Actually, most of these still only have a few hundred people on them, but they're very low-lying islands, very prone to storm surge, and that is going to be a big issue as we go ahead. Now, the good news, at the very least, I know a lot of these smaller islands are going to be impacted by this storm, is that Yap, home to about 11,000 people, looks like you're going to be staying south of the worst of the weather at least based on the latest forecast from the Japan Meteorological Agency and the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. And you can even see here with our outlook from the ECMWF as opposed to yesterday when it had that center of circulation moving right over the island. It does look like it's going to be skirting just north of the island, but you still have those typhoon strength winds along the northern periphery of Yap here. Good news is that also does look like it's going to miss a lot of the major populated areas and the southern portions of the island. But those of you living off towards the north, you're still going to be seeing, especially as we go ahead here into early Wednesday morning, that threat of storm surge on northwestern portions in these lagoons into a lot of low-lying areas. That is going to be an issue over the next 24 hours. So typhoon warnings definitely in place out here for Yap. A lot of the smaller islands, part of the Yap state back here towards the northeast. Guam, not really. You're just looking at some high winds. Potential to disrupt some travel in that area, mainly only because of we have these high wind advisories, and that could be causing some issues as far as your flights in and out of that island. But let's pull back the picture here and take a look at some other information I have here for you as far as the track is concerned from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. Do want to note they expect this to continue to actually intensify. Same thing with JMA, but this is the big deal. Now we're going to get into the impact on the Philippines. As this moves back here towards the west, it's going to be encountering a few things. One is vertical wind shear. Vertical wind shear, as I like to say with tropical systems, it's kind of like blowing out a candle. You just blow on it, and this storm system is the candle. It could just blow right over, especially a lot of the convection in the upper levels. It just kind of chops it right off. That is the case, what we might start to see here as we look ahead into the latter part of this week. But you're still going to be seeing some high winds and still going to be seeing some rainfall, especially there in the Luzon. I do think that the forecast is becoming more certain that we're going to be seeing a storm system come out here into Luzon by Sunday morning. Not so much Visayas. I know that was the case yesterday. We were still looking here, but as I mentioned a few times, the closer we get to this storm system making landfall over the weekend, the more accurate the forecast is going to be. I think a lot of this is going to be shifting a little bit farther off there towards the north. Still keep your guard on down here towards the south, because what we're going to be seeing is this high pressure ridge right in here. And right now, if that high pressure ridge was to stay smack right in place, this storm system would veer down towards southern Visayas or Mindanao. Do expect it to kind of lift off here towards the north. That should allow our storm system to lift as well, and it basically head off there towards parts of Luzon, vice heading in that due westerly projection. And you can even see it here on the bigger picture. You have your high pressure back here towards the east. There's that subtropical ridge, and then this right in here, that's that passing trough I keep on mentioning. Now, it's not that strong. That's a big point, because if it was stronger, I think our storm might miss the Philippines altogether, but it's not really. So the subtropical ridge might continue to hold in place, and that would keep it there over towards southern Luzon. Also keep a little bit of intensity on the storm. So all in all, probably looking at a low-end typhoon, but typhoon nonetheless, making landfall here in Luzon, there in the Philippines, by early Sunday morning. Big issue with this, something we've mentioned a few times, is the fact that this is going to be making landfall over a holiday weekend. We have millions of people traveling across the Philippines, heading on vacation because it is Easter weekend, also heading to Mass there on Sunday morning. It is going, if it is too dangerous out there, I know religion is definitely a big thing here in the Philippines, but just make sure you do not put yourself in harm's way. That was the big thing when the Pope visited, and one person ended up dying because people were outside in a typhoon. You want to keep safe, guys. Always be smart about things out here, and yeah, just be sure to stay off the waters, especially as well when these waves start to really kick up. I know a lot of people are going to be taking ferries across many of these areas, especially in between the islands. Very well could be dangerous if this storm does come on shore as a moderate to a strong typhoon. Even a severe tropical storm, it's still going to be rather risky. But I will leave you with this video once again coming out of Chuuk, and it kind of gives you an idea of what is headed your way there if you are into Yap or over towards some of these smaller islands there just north of there. All right, guys, stay safe out there, and as always, thanks for watching.